Well, hello there. Am I Asian enough for Meghan Markle? Because it seems like she's feeding a fetish at the moment. Let's get into it. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, Leilani of Barbados. Yes, I am in the required attire for Meghan Markle's podcast because she seems to have become an Asianophile, somebody who is fetishizing Asian people. Her last podcast, which dropped on Tuesday, but my son's birthday was on Wednesday, the 12th of October. So everyone spam the comments with happy birthday V, happy birthday Valentine, so I can show him. He does assist me with a lot of my videos. He does a lot of the music and he just turned 7. He had the best birthday gift in the world, which is a school report where he got no less than 98% in any of his subjects. So he is quite clever and that's why he helps me, and thanks for that because, you know, I'm just a dumb-do. Okay. Let's get into this. So the intro basically comprises of Meghan Markle explaining that nobody should ever call anybody crazy or hysterical or anything like that, and she's been called that constantly. I just want to talk about the fact that she chooses these guests either for one reason or another. They are no name, has been, never was, whatever guests. Either because when you Google their names, I figure out, you get her podcast because they have done nothing of note to warrant another Google search. It's either that or the fact that relevant celebrities don't really want to be on her podcast. It's one or the two. But the fact that she keeps showing off about people gifting her and people calling her and people frightened for her when she calls them because of who she is, and she shows up about that constantly throughout her Archetype series, I just wonder why she's choosing no-name people. She doesn't have a way of promoting them. It's like that. It's not in her heart to promote them. And I'll show you that now. Let's just jump in. You must not call her hysterical. You must not call her crazy. Those are names she will not accept, not here on this podcast. But it does sound like people are calling her crazy constantly to her face, like every day, which is something that she should probably look into. Okay, she draws on male comedians and how they mustn't make jokes about crazy women, and they constantly do. And I'm just like, what about women comedians? I mean, don't they make jokes about men? All kinds of crass jokes about men. But anyhow, this is about delusion. So I just think that she should never go to a comedy club because she's really not fit to be in one. We might have another Chris Rock and Will Smith situation if she did go to one.
Uh-oh, Richard. Oh, wow. Wow.
I must warn you that in case I include clips of the podcast, she is extra breathy in this one. And she is much more falling in love with her own voice than even before, if that can be imagined. Do I look like Imelda Marcos? I feel like I do. Except I don't have on any shoes. Sorry, okay, off track. So her first victim, guest is Constance Wu, who is a comedian who had her own show and she was very successful. As ever, Meghan Markle plays the most unflattering, unfunny soundbite of Constance Wu's sitcom Fresh Off the Boat.
Great job, Ev.
Ev? No, his name is Evan. Trust me, I named him myself.
It's a new nickname I'm trying out.
Did your new friends put you up to this? Lose it. Presidents don't have nicknames.
What about Abe Lincoln?
Dead.
Teddy Roosevelt?
Dead.
Jimmy Carter?
Ineffective.
And then she made a really bad tweet, several bad tweets in fact, and the world turned on her. So Meghan Markle says, "You ready to chat?" Which is, okay, I'll just... It sounds so creepy, so scary, so uncomfy. Fresh off the boat, it got to the 100th episode, which Meghan Markle says she knows very well what that feels like as an actor herself, in her past life, mind you, because now she's not sure yet, but in her past life she was an actor. You have to say actor nowadays, you can't say actress because that is too marginalizing. So now they come with this actor. I was an actor in my life. It's so cringe. Everything's a big accomplishment. These guests are huge. They are superstars. They are accomplished. They are brilliant people to have on her show. However, nobody's really heard of them, and they've also been cancelled off social media. for being despicable. Okay, Constance Wu explains that she has had a massive breakdown because she was doing so amazing and her new show got renewed for a 6th season. One fan said, "Great news. Congrats on your renewal. Great news." And Constance Wu tweets, "No, it's not. Effing hell," but she spells out the word. "So upset right now that I'm literally crying. F." Apparently, she had her eyes on another project, so conflict of interest, if you will, and therefore she was upset that this thriving television show was renewed. Not because she was ungrateful. No, definitely not. But because she had a moment of expressing herself, that she has always repressed this ability to express her true self. And so she did it. On Twitter, 3 times. Not once. If it was once, I kind of would have been like, okay, whatever. But it's Constantly Wu, like, just... I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. So she's 40 and now she's on Facebook.
Start with what you've called careless tweets and just set the scene for us. It's actually a hard thing to talk about without getting emotional.
And she's on, what is it? Jeopardy. That's where her career has come to, because of her incessant complaining about her good luck and about people calling her ungrateful. So she starts off by telling her life story that in her 20s, she spent a large amount of money. She was a drug taker and she was a party animal and she was what one might call a loose woman, having a lot of dating, and she felt so free and so wonderful. But it was only because she was running away from something. What was she running away from, you might ask? Well, she's been obsessed with theater. She was a theater kid and she really went to a lot of auditions and she got rejected a lot. And that's a problem. So instead, she decided to have a good time because she couldn't face the rejections or not being called back from auditions. I'm not quite relating, like I'm not getting it. She starts crying about it, which seems really, it's wildly unstable of her to start crying about having a nice time and spending lots of money instead of getting roles.
But, there's, even though, I'm about to cry, but there's a strength that comes with being able to say, you know what, I'm hurt. Or I'm scared. And, people often will weaponize that against you.
I know. And I mean, to your point, you have to have the thickest skin.
So Meghan Markle somehow spins that to say, oh, because you were ambitious, and they didn't understand that. And that's not really what Wu was saying, so she comes back and says something else. I don't really understand, but it's basically 2 narcissistic women having 2 narcissistic conversations at the same time, but they're different conversations. So that goes on for a while and I can't really follow it. In their conclusion, they agree that women should be able to melt down just like children and have paddies or, tantrums, and nobody should ever be able to judge them on that or say anything about that. As grown women, they should be able to freak out all over the place, and nobody should ever be able to criticize them about that because that's their truth.
And I see the same thing in my kids as you're talking about in yours, where I'm like, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to feel so deeply. It's like an Adele album.
Constance Wu comes up with a lot of excuses for her mistweets and says that all kinds of things were happening to her, like she was being controlled by her producer, and alludes a little bit to SA perhaps, or SH. Doesn't really explain why. It doesn't explain the process of how she got better or anything. She just suddenly woke up and she was fine after that. And now here she is, fine, and she has a book and you should really read it. And she's back on social media after being literally cancelled. And so here we are on Archetypes, Stereotypes, to promote the book. You're going to see this theme with the guests where they suddenly wake up and have mental illness and then they suddenly are fine and you should buy their product. That's basically what you're going to see. I'm sorry, spoiler alert, but it gets wild. So please stay with me because the next guest is wild. Okay. I took note that Wu was sobbing for long periods of time without Meghan saying anything for 2 minutes straight. And Meghan just, in kind of a sociopath way, just lets it run on air. She says at one point that she wishes that she could feel to cry, but she can't because she's conditioned herself not to feel.
But really, the craziest thing in the world would be to keep all of that inside. So you right now, I mean, I think it's beautiful. So even my own version of like, I would love to cry this much, but I'm conditioned to still have a different kind of composure. And now you sort of go, oh, you just relax and let it out.
Great person to interview on mental health, right? Totally. The perfect person, a robot, right? It's a shit show. I don't know how else to say it. Somehow, before we get to the doozy of a next guest, Aparna Nanshurna comes in talking about how she makes jokes on stage about anxiety and mental illness in order to like make it normalized somehow. And then Meghan Markle asks her like, oh, but what do you think about the word crazy? And Aparna never answers that, but Meghan still like insists on bringing up her specialist pediatrician who is going to give her some advice about mental illness in grown women. So I don't get that, but I think that might be her pediatrician for her children. She just wanted to give her a plug. That's all I can think. This pediatrician goes on to talk very slowly, take a lot of nasal breaths and constantly and doesn't say anything but blah, 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 blah. Women are less believed, and she talks in riddles, and it's like, I don't get anything out of it. So talking about less believed, of course, Meghan has a story about another very famous, very important person who is her very close friend, Serena Williams, and how Serena Williams had problems with her pregnancy and she had to end up self-diagnosing, self-prescribing, scans and so on in order to get the treatment because she wasn't believed, because somebody said, "You crazy girl. You don't have blood clots." That's so fake. That can't be real. Serena Williams, do you think she has doctors that don't know what they're doing in America? Do you think she has nurses that are telling her, "You crazy girl"? Like, it's made up. This is fictional. We're finally at the last guest, Deepika Padukone. And what a ride she took us on. So after all the pleasantries and thank you for sending me gifts and yes and I'm so important and so on and so forth, Meghan of course bigs up the Bollywood actress Deepika and says, she's the most amazing and she had the amazing and she's very talented. I have a little problem with that because I think talented is a superlative on its own. I think that it's a gifted thing and you don't have to say very talented. I feel like it's either you're talented or you're not talented. But that's me and with my brain, how my brain works.
It turns out, yes, she was and is very talented.
Everything's a superlative when it comes to her guests because nobody actually knows who they are. So Deepika is the best. She reminds me so much of Priyanka Chopra, as my bestie from Miss World. She's like, my life was amazing, my relationships were amazing, my family was amazing, my friends are. And then all of a sudden I woke up in the morning and I dropped down and I had low blood pressure. And it made me want to unalive myself, that I felt so bad.
I woke up one morning and everything was going well. My films were a success. Personally, beautiful relationship, supportive family. Like, it just sort of came out of the blue. I woke up, I fell, my blood pressure dropped. And then the next thing I know, my life just felt meaningless. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to get out of bed.
It sounds kind of like my mother-in-law when she has a hangover. She always says she has low blood pressure and then she has to stay in bed. She said her parents came to visit her and when they left, she got very emotional and she started crying. And that's when she knew that she needed help.
My parents were visiting me and the day they were ready to leave, I was sitting and watching them pack and I started crying again. And my mom was like, "What's wrong? Is it your relationship? Has someone said something to you?" I said, "I don't know. I've been feeling like this for many, many months. I just keep crying. I don't know why."
When parents come to visit you and they leave, if you cry, you are mentally ill. okay? And you start to harass all these people around you that you're crazy because you cried about your parents. Okay, she called somebody who is important and a counselor, and what was she at? She was at a huge event, and she just dropped everything and came straight to Deepika to say, I'm here to help you because you cried when their parents left. I'm sorry. I know I'm doing this thing and I'm trying to talk to you about it and show you how it was, but this is nuts, man. That they expect people to relate to them, feeling sorry for themselves, for having normal emotions, for having to search long and hard for something to complain about. We must feel sorry for them. The best part is Meghan now has to one-up her by saying, me too. I also got given a number to call of a counselor.
You know, my husband had found a referral for me to call, and I called this woman. She didn't know I was even calling her. What? And she was checking out at the grocery store. I could hear the little beep, beep of her doing, and I was like, hi, and I'm introducing myself, and like literally hear her going, wait, sorry, who is this? And saying I need help.
We know that she said, this is Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, right? And of course, this counselor was like, what? Who did you say you are? I'll be right with you. I'm in the grocery store. I can't believe this is happening to my life. Again, showing off that she's so important and people were so impressed by her. Anyway, just like the last guest, Constance Wu, Deepika suddenly wakes up and comes out of this mental illness, and now she's fine. No process, no medication, no explanation, but she's just here to say she's come out the other side now and she's done with all that mental illness stuff. And this is so dangerous because I think it is common knowledge that when you go through things, you have to take it one day at a time. Real trauma has to be taken one day at a time, and nobody's ever said, well, I woke up and I was mentally ill and then I went to sleep and I was fine again. Like, this is so bad. This should be striked from the internet. Well, anyway, since she's back out on the other side of her mental illness, now she's touring and doing sort of a television tour where some people are saying she's so brave. She dropped down when she shouldn't have dropped down from the, party the night before or whatever. And this is literally Meghan Markle content. This is her content. And I also don't understand. Okay, she must be very hard to work with because I don't understand how they piece it together in such a mismatched way. She has a very big slip at 44 minutes or so in where she talks about Harry having this job.
You're right. My husband works a lot with the military community.
I mean, this must be the 11th job that Harry's had that we don't see anything about. So the conclusion of these interviews, besides the what 3 words, is, sitting in your truth and being whatever you want to be, even though you might annoy the heck out of everyone that sees you, you must still just do that, and that should be accepted no matter what. And this is the copium that she is basing all of these archetypes, stereotypes. I got you guys. Stereotypes podcast on is this copium, this ability to cope with how messed up she is because she feels like she's not the only one. But literally, everyone else that you're talking to who is like you has been disgraced. Why I think this is so dangerous is because her main conclusion, Meghan Markle, is that one day you wake up and you're better, and nobody could believe that. Of course not. And she never talks about the process, the medical help, or anything like that. She just says, and just one day you're better.
I would imagine when you go from really being in a dire state and then, you've gotten to the other side.
And here I am. Better. Can you see how that might be dangerous to people with real mental health issues? That there's no backative from science. There's no mention of a process of therapy. They talk about contacting therapists, but they don't really talk about the process that they went through. Here's my conclusion. Reliability, accountability, medical credibility. Well, I guess we didn't check those boxes today. But anyway, thank you so much for watching me. And please spam the comments with happy birthday to my son, Valentine, or V, or whatever. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Please share my video and also like it if you do. If you don't, you know, whatever it is. I also have a 98th percentile likes, so the apple does not fall very far from the tree. Thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye.
What in the world can she do?